That's for thought. Well, that's a quote from the original Nancy Page newspaper clipping that appeared in 1928. This is what the pansy pattern looked like when Florence Leganke provided it for the Publishers Syndicate. And then the little story continues. Every member of the club who was making Grandmother's Garden Quilt had begged Nancy to design the pansy block. Well, Dorothea, now that's a club member, chose leftover purple from the fuchsia block and scraps of yellow from the crocus. Well, the maker of this antique Grandmother's Garden Quilt followed Nancy's instructions to the T. Now, she also used the purple and the yellow for her block. Well, Nancy's club fell in love with the pansy block. And it's true, most people do love the pansy. This is a photograph of some beautiful pansies. They're now a favorite of florists. They're fancy, they're grown and shown competitively. But originally, pansies came from the tricolored violet. It's also known as Johnny Jump Up. Well, the Victorians called them heart's ease and associated them with an innocent, unspoiled love. In Midsummer Night's Dream, Oberon told Puck to place a pansy on the sleeping eyes of Titania in order that she might fall in love with the first object she saw when she awoke. Well, that's a good story. Well, here's what we've done with the pansy. Now, I used the fuchsia, I love that, and the yellow and the purple. There's 2 folded leaves and then 1 fusible leaf. Now, Patty's dimensional pansy is very similar, but she used 3 pansies. Now, first she made her flowers and arranged them, and then she added her stems and leaves. Well, today we're also going to show you the Morning Glory. Now, I don't have the original Nancy Page pattern, although this one was traced, perhaps from a neighbor's or a sister's newspaper. Now, you can see on our antique quilt how much the antique block resembles the original drawing, but this quilter actually added a little bud to the block. It looks so nice. Well, a Wisconsin quilt maker by the name of Anna Irene Cheesebrow made the baskets and flowers for Grandmother's Garden Quilt following Florence Leganke's instructions, but she did her own creative Morning Glory border around the quilt, and oh, it's just beautiful in blue. Now, the Morning Glory that most of us know is called Heavenly Blue. This is a photo of Anna Irene Cheesebrow. Now, her granddaughter, Beverly, told us that she just loved to quilt, especially with her friend Katie Jones. The 2 of them formed their own quilt club. Now, Patty's dimensional Morning Glory is just beautiful in several shades of purple. She did the 2 leaves with triple stitch on the leaves and then the couching off of the basket. Well, fuchsia is one of my favorite colors, so I used the fuchsia with some light and some medium purple. I also have the couching too. It's great. Well, there's nothing like sitting under a trellis loaded with blue Morning Glories in bloom. Patty's going to join me, and we have no time for relaxing. So let's get to work. Pat, did you know that the botanical word for Morning Glory is Greek, and it means warm-like, for a warm-like stem?
Oh, would that be the tendril?
Well, they are warm-like, aren't they?
That's
are. True. And if you look at the Morning Glory down on it, it winds counterclockwise around its support. It's genetically programmed, doesn't matter what state it's in. Now, this is my mom in her Pennsylvania garden.
Those Morning Glories just took over the entire garden.
They did. They're beautiful. They're heavenly blue. They're wonderful. Now, first thing you have to do for your Morning Glories is go ahead and trace your patterns on fusible interfacing. There are 2 leaves, and they are mirror image leaves. And then there is the flower A, and it's the same in both the flat and in the dimensional. The second flower, this is the dimensional one. Flower B, it has a top on it, and this is the flat flower B. And look at this. We've got the bottom for flower B, that makes sense. And then here is the bud right here. Well, if you'd go ahead and just have a calyx and then a bottom of the flower, those are such tiny pieces. So this is what we've done. We've taken the two strips and sewn them together, a tiny green and then a wider. This is a light purple. Pieced them with a 1/4 inch seam, press the seam down to the green, and so then whenever you put that piece on there, the fusible, you just line up the dashed line with the seam. When you trim it and you turn it, you get a little piece like this. That is little, isn't it? Well, this is the top of Flower B. And once again, look at all of those lines on that. Ooh, they are going to have to be stitched with some type of a decorative stitch. But that's that Morning Glory when we put it together. Now, we've got the bud. Same thing, little green calyx, so let's just go ahead and piece those strips together so that when you put the bud on, line up that dashed line, and down here, look at the leaves. Oh my gosh, all of those lines are going to look just great. Aren't there a lot of them? You did a great job on that, Pat.
You can either hand or machine stitch those.
Well, I'd do it by machine. So whenever you stitch on those lines through the batting and the interfacing, then you create these beautiful dimensional leaves. They're great. Well, no heavenly blue morning glories for us. We decided to use our fuchsia color. This is the same color that we see in the postcard. This is from the Florida Everglades. Oh, it's beautiful. And remember, we used the same fabric for our fuchsia flower. Well, when you trace it, you also include these lines for all of that dimensional stitching. And you sew around the outside edge on the fusible interfacing. Let's see if I can get this done. Once you've sewn, ooh, I don't want to destroy those lines because I think I'm going to need to use those. So just make a little cut in the interfacing, get that straw in there, and then just turn this piece right side out. I've turned the fabric so that's right on the end of the straw. Ooh, this one turns pretty quick. Okay, part way out. Get another one in there. Do not destroy those lines. I think they are going to be great. Okay, so once you've got it just about turned, then take the ball on your bodkin and just run it around. Surely I can get a beautiful morning glory shape out of this. Okay, run the ball around. Get that perfect. And then take your wooden iron. Gosh, without those dimensional lines, it doesn't look like anything, does it? Just like a circle. Okay, so flatten it like this, and then take cotton batting, 100% cotton batting that's cut to be the same size. See if I grab hold of this and get it in that hole without stretching it too much. Oh, grab it again. Just go in and out. Ooh, if Mother could grow flowers this easy. Yeah, she loves her morning glories. You've got to get up early in the morning to get out there. They'll be gone by lunchtime, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, one more little push. Got it in. All right, now you need to decide on a stitch. To do this by machine, got to do some practicing on your stitches. Now I have a couple of different stitches that look like a triple stitch or a back and forth stitch or a stem stitch, something like that. So I did some practicing on these stitches, and this is what I've come up with. Now if I want to use the lines on the wrong side, the stitching has to look as nice on the wrong side. So I went ahead and decided on number 6 on this machine. Let me see if I can get it. It's already on, programmed on. Number 6, and I'm just going to use a foot that I can see through here. Needle down, got that dropped in place. I'm sure my stiletto will be very helpful. And then just go back and forth, and just stay on that line. And then whenever I get up to this one part, all I'm going to do is just, oh my gosh, I'm there. Okay, leave the needle down. Just raise it and pivot it, and then just start back the other way. So this is just like a slow, just go around in and out. Slow, but we can get it. Okay, right there. You'll leave your needle down. Whoops, one more, and just pivot. So do you want to see? Let's take a look and see how it looks. I'm going to have, perfect. So you can see the dimension that it's created right with that stitching. And then to finish it off, then all you need is just that little French knot right there. And that's it. What do you think of that, Pat?
I think it's very pretty. Now I've added white lines radiating from the center. I used 2 strands of embroidery floss, and then I've arranged my pieces onto my basket, my 2 leaves and then flower A. For flower B, I traced the top onto the interfacing, and then I turned it, and I've done some top stitching, and there's that pretty center again.
That's beautiful.
Now this is the bottom of flower B. I've sewn the dark purple and the light purple. I used my template, and this is a fold over flower. Now my opening is on the dark purple, and I'm placing the dark purple down, and then I just roll over the top edge and round it out in the center, and I'm going to pin this in place so that it will have a little dimension. And then the other side. Now the calyx, I've traced 2 calyx using the template. 1 calyx goes on the bottom of flower B, and then the second calyx is going to go to my bud. Now for my bud, I've used a template to cut the quarter circle, fold it in half, stitch on the straight side, turn it right side out, and I have a little cone shape here. And then I'm going to, just with a needle and thread, I'm going to gather the raw edge, and this is a little wraparound calyx that I'm going to add on the bottom. And then we're going to do the twist. Can you do the twist?
Do the twist.
Yeah, from high school I remember.
Oh, that was a good twister.
That was the only dance I could do. But if you just pin this in place, and then I'm just going to twist the bud, and that's how you do it.
That looks great.
Thank you. We need to do a little couching for those warm light tendrils. I'm using a really heavy weight of pearl cotton. And I just pull the needle, catch the knot underneath. And then I'm just going to do some little loop-de-loops here. Yeah, if you just kind of let it curl. And then you don't need to stitch the end of it. If you just pin the loops in place. And then I'm using a needle and thread, and I'm going to actually just stitch over the pearl cotton. Just come up on one side, cross over, and then come up about a quarter of an inch along the strand. And then just stitch over, and that's how you do it.
That is great. Now, did you say what size this pearl cotton is?
It's size 3. It's the
Size
heavier
3.
weight.
It's fat.
Fat stuff.
Thank heavens it's fat. So I can do it by machine. Finally, I have my invisible thread in. Now, I put some lines on my handle piece, and behind it I put some tearaway stabilizer. I don't want to have any puckering in this. So if you take your pearl cotton and select a foot that has a little bit of a notch in it. I see right here, I have a notch right in my foot, so I'm going to line that up with the notch. Now I left off the stem right here so that after I get my couching done, then I can go ahead and just cover the raw edges of the pearl cotton with the stem. Let me get this in place. Oh my gosh, this one needs to have your tongue to help line up too. Okay, now I'm going to use needle down, and I set my stitch to a zigzag. It's a fairly wide stitch. It's 2.5 invisible thread, and I put it in the top and in the bobbin. Okay, now I've got that pearl cotton on that V. Oh, take a locking stitch, and finally see if I can keep it on that line. This is going to be the best. So you really need to have, I think I'll take the bite down just a little bit to 2.0. Ooh, I wonder if I need to slow down my machine too, because look at this curve coming up. This is going to be a challenge. Got my stiletto there. and you just slowly go around it. Use your needle down, raise your foot, do pivots when you need to. If you have a rabbit or a turtle on your sewing machine, maybe you want the turtle right now. But you can just keep on winding around. Oh, this is looking good. Now, I do have invisible thread in my bobbin as well. But you could go ahead and just use bobbin thread to match your background. Ooh, am I good or what, Pat? Look
Just
at that.
like driving a car.
It is. It's great. Much better. This suits my lifestyle. Much better. So all I'm going to do is just finish up my couching, and I will have our morning glories done. The little tricolor violet was the ancestor of our pansy.
And those are the Johnny jump ups that Mother makes me pull. She said, those are weeds, get rid of them.
Right. You have a whole wheelbarrow full there. That's
great.
great.
Took me about an hour to pull all those
You're
weeds.
fast. Now this is the wall right beside Mother and Father's house.
And everyone drives by and they stop to look at their beautiful flowers.
It's like a showcase.
Yeah.
And that looks like you two had a good time that
We
day.
did.
All right. Well, the pansies are just beautiful in Patty's flower pot. Oh, now these are the dimensional pansies. And I'm going to show you the bottom piece right here. But the middle piece, petal B, is dimensional. It's 2 pieces of fabric so that you can just go ahead and flip those forward. Oh, are those our mouse ears right there? And then right here you have the top part. And these are the same in both the flat and the dimensional. So let me show you those pieces. You're going to start out with that top part right here. It is a simple shape. You just need to take fusible interfacing, trace that shape on with the fabric, sew on the line, and then when you turn it, put just a little tuck right down here. That's going to help give you a lot of dimension when you put that down in your background piece. Now, the middle piece is different for flat and dimensional. This is the dimensional right here. Do you see the shading right here in petal B? Well, you can get that shading so it really creates a nice look. If you turn your fabric upside down, follow the shading along here, then just place your template right on top. Then you want to just trace around your template, place 2 pieces of fabric right sides together so that when you sew on the line and you turn it, you've got your fabric on the back. Now, the flat is just really fusible interfacing and the fabric underneath. And you can see this one is stuffed with cotton. Ooh, nice and dimensional. Now, the bottom piece, we are using very dark purple. I think it has to be very dark purple. But it's fusible interfacing. Trace on the line, turn it, and then you can stuff that piece too. There's a fusible leaf, only 1 fusible leaf, but 2 leaves that are done from 2 different shades of green placed right sides together. This is that template drawing. So you just go ahead and stitch right on the line, and then when you turn it, figure out which one you want to have curled over. If this is going to curl over, then make your cut right on the back side. That looks great. So,
well, this is the fun part about making the pansies. You can combine different colors of fabric. And it's kind of like when you get dressed in the morning and you say, do I want to wear this skirt or shall I wear this skirt?
ooh, I think that's more
Yes,
interesting.
it is. And then this is an example of what not to do because I used the same fabric for all 3 pansy parts. And
Boring, as you say.
it is boring and flat, very flat.
It is.
So to make it more interesting, we could perhaps change our skirt.
But I do like the way you did all of the shading
I
in
did.
that middle petal.
Yeah, that fussy cut. And
That's
another
good.
possibility, we could perhaps use this in back and see if that gives it a little more interest. But it's just fun to play. You can just switch them back and forth and all day trying to decide which colors to use.
And you can use almost any color. That's the best part for the pansies.
Well, I used 3 different pansies in my basket. And I arrange my pansies and then decide on the placement for the stem. And then after I sew my stem, then I do my pansies.
I see. And so this is your fusible leaf right here.
Uh-huh.
And you have these all curled under,
Right.
ready to sew that all down. That looks perfect.
Thank you.
So for the flat, all I need to do is just take those pieces, fuse them in place, and then I'll show you how to do that satin stitch right in the middle.
With the variegated pearl cotton.
All right. Patty sewed 4 pansy blocks together for an on-point setting, and it is great. Now the finish is unusual. You start with triangles, and to the triangles on 2 sides you add a folded border, and next a wider border that's mitered right up here at the corner. And then you make 4 units at a time. Take those units and you cut them on the diagonal and then sew them to each corner of the quilt top. What a great finish. Well, let me show you the satin stitch on the pansies. I'm using pearl cotton number 5. It's variegated yellow and orange pearl cotton. You can see a lot of orange right down here in this pansy. And in this one, different colors of yellows and light pales. It's great. Now, you need to have a large needle. And you want to take your first stitch right in the center, pull it down, take a stitch about 3/4 of an inch, and then work from the center out to one side. Each time, take a bit shorter stitch and just kind of fan it out from one edge to the other. Ooh, looking good. Now, you'll notice that this is an easy basket. It's a little bit different than the piece basket. It takes half of the time. So let me show you. You start out with 1 7-inch square and you cut it into 4ths on both diagonals and use only 1/4 of it. Now to that triangle, you add side pieces that are 2.5 inches by 8 inches. This is a 2.5-inch square. Look at that easy piece in the middle. Now the sides come from 2 3/4 inch by 10-inch background strips, and the feet are just like the ones in the piece basket, 3-inch squares right to each part. And this is that 5.5-inch bottom square. You only need 1 bottom. And then the handle is just exactly like the piece in the pieced basket. It's great and easy to do. Well, the great outdoors are calling me. I found these pillowcases embroidered with pansies, and the maker was an expert embroiderer, as demonstrated in these perfect back stitches. The cases were sold by Lee Ward's, a name you probably recognize, and then crocheted lace is going to be worked through these holes to finish off the pillowcase. Now these pansy blocks are another treasure. I found them in St. Paul, Minnesota, and they are just beautiful in the solid purples, yellows, and greens. Now each block is appliqued with perfect blanket stitches, look at that. And then there's stem stitches right here in the leaves. And there's a beautiful butterfly and the ink stamped lines for hand quilting. Now they apparently were made in a group for a friendship quilt because each block is embroidered with a maker's name, and I just love the old-fashioned sounding names. Well, Hilda was in the group, and then she had a friend. Let's see, who else was here at the meeting? Alice came to the group, and Selma was there. And then this one is my favorite one because it's EB, the same initials as mine, and at least EB made beautiful stitches. Well, perhaps they each made a block and then they drew for a winner, or else the group gave the blocks to the one that was moving away or getting married. Well, nonetheless, EB found its way back to me. Now, pansies again just cover this quilt. Ooh, I just love all of these bright colors. Now, the center is the focal point with its bouquet of pansies, and then the pansies repeat in the border areas. Well, I laugh every time I look at this one because it reminds me of Groucho Marx. This quilt was made from a kit put out by Progress. It was kit number 1365, and it probably sold for around $3.95. Can you imagine? Well, kits played an important part in the 1920s and 30s because they redirected the focus of quilt making from a community-based group process to a professionally created project that emphasized on design. Well, this is a similar kit, and it was put out by Home Needlecraft Creations. And as you can see, each one of the solid fabrics is stamped with a pattern piece. And then all you needed to do was cut around each one of the pieces, and each one is numbered. And then you had to find where it belonged on the background and applique it in place. Now they even included matching binding in the kit. Well, they sure made it easy to do. Well, with all the tricks that you learned today, your quilting will be a little easier too. So enjoy.